Okay, so speaking of crazy good quarterback throws, and an interesting player coming back and opening a practice window, Rashawn Slater potentially coming back for the Chargers to protect for Justin Herbert, who is
not this week, but maybe next week.
Yeah, the king of wild quarterback throws. So here we go.
And I heard someone say he might not play tackle if he comes back.
Oh, so that would be interesting. But we got Chargers Jaguars, which about as we got the Jaguars beating the Titans, which is definitely the preferred outcome there, as we were talking about what this matchup would have been. So again, we saw this game earlier in the season, and these are just two teams both at completely different places. Jaguars were still trying to figure themselves out and what they were doing. They were still like the flashes, but they hadn't really figured it out yet. With the Chargers, Justin Herbert was just coming off of like not having ribs together.
He didn't practice at all that entire week.
Yeah. So it's hard to really take anything like from that matchup because these two teams are just in completely different places right now.
James Robinson had 100 yards.
Yeah. If that's where you want to, highlight how different these teams are, that's it right there. But this is fun. So I think the biggest question is going to be Mike Williams coming into this game, whether he can play or not, because Justin Herbert with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams on the field is a completely different quarterback than when none of them are on the field, which was the case for most of the season, or even just one of them on the field. So, that's
Keenan's been enough because, Big Mike's missed a chunk of this back half.
Right. So he's still been good with both. So it's, 0.08 EPA with, actually it ends up being the same split with either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. Is still the same. And that's, much better than without either. But of course, like without both, it's, he's been like the best quarterback in the league kind of by EPA, but obviously that hasn't, sustained a little bit. One thing about Justin Herbert, which to go back to, surprisingly, the second most dropbacks and attempts, and he finished the season second in passing yards. Like that's just not a thing like you would think with Justin Herbert, but the fact that they had him dropping back that much, and we're still frustrated about how far, he was dropping back, but it's just a wild thing that like going back. And it's not like passing yards, not something I'm completely taking an account of like going through the season. But just to see that he finished second was absolutely wild considering, how we've thought about the Chargers offense for most of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote about it too in the worksheet too. Like he's basically playing the same style of football that Joe Burrow is playing. And like, you don't hear anything about like what the Bengals are doing, right? Like you just don't. It's literally the same thing. The only difference is like they've had really bad red zone efficiency, and he's had bad touchdown luck, and they've had more rushing touchdowns than the Bengals. But basically, since Keenan Allen's been back over that same span, him and Joe Burrow have identical ADOTs, identical yards per pass attempt. It's just that Joe Burrow has more touchdowns, like almost identical completion rates, because the Bengals have kind of adjusted to the too high stuff, right? And like they're taking a lot of checkdowns. Why Joe Mixon is the most targets, receptions, and yards he's had in his career. And the Chargers have had to operate that way the entire season through injury, through offensive coordinator, all those things, right? But he's playing the best football of his career, or of the season, not of his career. Since Keenan Allen came back, he leads the NFL in completion rate. He's thrown for over 7 yards per pass attempt in all those games but one. And he only did that, twice over before the first 9 games of the season. So like are we getting like the super like run out games where he's throwing like 9.5 yards per pass? No, but he's been a lot better, and his offense has been better. Yeah. So I mean, he's playing really good, and we've kind of gone back and forth on this thing with Herbert all year. Like not us, but the widespread media of like how good has he actually been this year? He's been damn good. Justin Herbert's been awesome this year.
Yeah. Yeah, like that. That shouldn't be a question. Like he really has. And the frustration that we have is that it's typically in spite of the offense, and it still is that.
Yeah, I don't want to absolve Joe Lombardi either. Like I've that's never been my stance. It's like say like he's not like they could do better, but like like there's still a lot that like Herbert's doing just really good on his own.
Yes, and that's always been the Herbert thing, right? Like when he is able to kind of take ownership of what he's doing on the field, that's where we see those wild throws. He still has the crazy like first and second down and third down split in ADOT. He hasn't been quite as like superhuman on third down this year. And again, that was because most of the year has been without Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. So his yards per attempt on early downs and third down is about the same, even though the ADOT is still has that big split. But again, man, when he needs to like make some throws, he still does it. Yeah, like this, you don't want to get like too ahead of ourselves, but this is a potentially fun like Michael Fuller type place if they make that switch at offensive coordinator.
But now if they made the playoffs, I doubt that there's a shakeup. But you never know.
They still should. Yeah,
I thought for sure like they like Staley would have to like make like Stefanski had to make a coaching staff. You're the accessory here. That's gone. Like I thought that was for sure gonna happen. But then when they had the run, it might have saved Lombardi's bacon.
I don't know.
I'm not.
here's the hoping. There's a little bit of a change. But
just give us a speed receiver and it'll change though. Like I understand Lombardi's speed, like the ADOT will go up when he's throwing to actual guys that can go downfield.
Yeah, and that's like we talked about that early in the season, where there's just there is no threat here. Keenan Allen sometimes still is that threat, and it's tough.
Keenan Allen's a balling though since he came back.
Yeah, man.
Dude still has it. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do with him. Restructure his contract, because he is a hefty cap hit next year.
Yeah, I mean, both of them do. It's one of the few teams that has two guys making over 20 million, which is tough, especially when you have those injury issues and he's there. But the Jaguars, they're again a team that is the flashes are still there. Like against Tennessee, it was still a little ugly because Tennessee's still going to do that. Even like at their worst, Tennessee is still going to make you look a little worse than you are.
We talked about the layoff though. Like that was it impacted the game, that them having almost 2 full weeks off, right? Like the Titans versus like the Jags on a short week. Like there was definitely an impact there.
Yeah, I think so. But man, Trevor Lawrence is good at football, and here we are. That it took a roundabout way, and some people like. I just got to go back to like there was a point earlier in the season where like Davis Mills is the only good 2021 quarterback, was like a take that real people had. But
no real people had that take.
No
humans, humans did. There were humans, but no real people.
Yeah, it was crazy. So here we are, like Trevor Lawrence has figured some things out, and this Jaguars offense has figured some things out. They're doing a lot of fun stuff. They're doing a lot of fun motions. And when Lawrence needs to sling it, he can. That touchdown to Christian Kirk last week was a lot of fun. They're going against this Chargers defense, and we kind of
you think higher of this
joked
defense
about
than
it.
I do.
Yeah, I bite. They've been good like over the past couple weeks.
I mean, sure they have.
Right. So it kind of it goes back to even when we were talking, like this is still it's a well schemed defense. They're going to come up with good game plans. And for part of the season, it was still like the talent wasn't there because of all the injuries. But now they're getting some guys back. It's been real good. They're changing up some looks. They're doing a lot of fun things like along the line. They're having some of these simulated pressures. When Derwin James is the blitzer, it's like the most efficient blitzing scheme in the league. When Derwin James is whether Derwin James is the guy who gets the pressure or not, just like having him in the blitz package is one of the most efficient, just like defensive structure things in the league right now. So doing a lot of fun things there. I think the defensive line's playing, a little better. Obviously, you can still run on them. Are the Jaguars going to do that? I don't know. And I think like that might be the question. Like, is this a Doug Peterson sits back and goes, okay, this is where we're going to beat them. We're going to run Travis Etienne maybe like 15 times in the, first 3 quarters. Is that how they do that? I'm not sure, because the secondary is playing a lot better, and I think like that's kind of where they can match up with these guys. You have Derwin James again, who can probably hang on to Evan Ingram, right? So you have a guy who can cover those tight ends. They're just mixing and matching all the time. Like again, they don't really have the Jaguars don't really have like a number 1 type guy, which is kind of what we've talked about. Like Christian Kirk is good. Again, you're not like running an offense through Christian Kirk, and I think that the Chargers can match up well with that. So like, that's kind of where I am with the Chargers defense. I think they're always going to match up fairly well with these guys. And if the Jaguars are just going to kind of come out and go pass heavy, which is, what Doug Peterson like would want to do in an ideal world, I'm not sure how well that's going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Jaguars, them not having like kind of an alpha, I think helps them out here a little bit more. I mean, both those guys, Kirk and Zay Jones, have been pretty good. They get pretty good bumps against man coverage, which the Chargers do run a lot. The Chargers blitz a lot. The Chargers don't stop the run, and the Chargers just got absolutely flooded by Russell Wilson, and that was prior to facing Baker Mayfield, the Colts, and the Titans. Like, right? Like, the Chargers have nothing on their resume defensively to make me really believe outside of like the Dolphins 49ers games. And like, there's some symmetry in styles of offense there. And the Dolphins might have been a little bit of Fugazi, which we talked about heading into that 49ers game anyways. So I like the players on the Chargers defense. I believe in the defensive head coach, but like, dude, you just got racked by the Broncos. Like, racked. Your first team defense got racked. Like,
yeah.
I mean, and like, so the Chargers have allowed 33 plays this season of 30 or more yards. Only the Lions allowed more. Like, they allow huge plays. Like, they just don't give up plays. They give up huge plays. They were number 32 in the NFL in yards allowed per play on first down. And you say, well, their run defense sucks, right? Like, if they give up yards on first down. They were number 32 in yards allowed on first down runs, and they were number 32 in yards allowed on first down passes, too. Like, you can't. You gotta be like. They're very Jekyll and Hyde in games, because they've had moments. Like, they've had moments in both Chiefs games where the defense has played well too, but the consistency, man, has just been bad. This game I'm excited for because I don't think either defense is good. The Jaguars, like, you look at the Jaguars' resume defensively, dude, they haven't stopped anybody good, and like they've gotten racked by some really bad quarterbacks too, like Matt Ryan, like like Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, Lamar Jackson. That offense was the only good game the Ravens have had offensively in the second half of the year was against the Jaguars. Daniel Jones, like, I mean, they got absolutely crushed. Not as good as Justin Herbert.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're a defense that kind of it flashes with some of the stars that they have, and not even stars. We don't have to
go back to Week 18. Like, dude, a lot of defensive fronts have looked like that against the Titans this year.
Right. Yeah, that offensive line is not good at all in Tennessee. So yeah, you have like Arden Key's been good all year. Like, he's just kind of a good, situational type pass rusher. You have Trayvon Walker, who's been, the hit or miss with what he's been able to do in the pass rush. Again, still, a good run defender, but again, that's not really what you're looking for in this matchup here. Tyson Campbell has been incredible on the outside. I think like that is something that Jaguars should be real excited about. I put him on my first team All-Pro at corner. He's been so good. He has one of the highest rates of press coverage, and he's still been real good there. And I think that's a fun place because he was just kind of like one of those super athletic traits-based guys that they drafted, and for him to develop in the second year. But he got that, and then the Jaguars defense has been a little different between when Darius Williams has been in the slot and when he's been on the outside. Like he did all of his work, like his best work for the Rams when he was on the outside. But he's 5'9", so you kind of have that natural inclination to put him in the slot, but it's just like that's not where his movement and he plays so much bigger than that. So since they've moved him to the outside, it's been a little better. So they do have some other answers in the secondary there a little bit, but yeah, like you said, it doesn't like the linebackers haven't been quite as good as they were, earlier in the season. Some of the rookies have fallen off a little bit. It's tough. So like this hopefully this maybe is a shootout. Like this should be a nice fun.
Man, I'm hoping it's the shootout game.
Yeah. All right,
I don't really have a lean though, like on the betting side, because I feel like one, like betting on the Chargers is never amazing. Like it never feels good when you do it.
Sure.
And I feel like both of these teams, if you bet on either side, there's gonna be various points of the game where you feel really good and really bad about your bet. Like
certainly.
Yeah. So hopefully it is fun. It doesn't let down. Hopefully this is kind of like the firework game, because I'd love to see both of these quarterbacks really light it up.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we're hoping for. Yeah, this is the one game where I'm not totally sure if you have a complete.
It is the one game I don't really feel like I don't really have like a strong take on like this team's gonna win, and it's the tightest point spread. So granted, like that all bears out, right? Like
right, yeah, absolutely.